Hi everybody, welcome once again to our Low on Health Daily Rambling, where I basically kind of go over what I've been doing recently. Now, I did skip a day. I'm doing one of these, and I am alive and well. I know none of you really probably noticed, but I've basically been playing Heavy Rain a bunch, and that kind of just threw off my schedule, and I just been plowing through that game, and I really did enjoy playing Heavy Rain, and I'll be getting to that later on. I'll mention some things about it, but I am well. Also, recently, my mother stopped by to drop off some Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies. Apparently, it's Girl Scout season, and she usually always gets me a box or two of Thin Mints, which is funny because I recently bought the Keebler Grasshopper cookies, which are kind of the same thing recently, so my fridge is thoroughly stocked with chocolate mint cookie goodness. Let's just move on here. There's some interesting web things. Yakuza 3, which I'm very psyched up about, just like I am for Heavy Rain. Apparently, there were cuts made in Yakuza 3. Basically, they're taking out a Japanese history quiz, which kind of makes sense because the Western people don't really know the history of Japan that well. But they've also taken out the Hostess Club, which I imagine is basically going to the Hostess Club, dealing with them, and probably even managing one. I imagine have probably all been taken out of the game. And basically Sega saying, well, we took it out because it wasn't going to be that big of a deal for the Western audience, and that also it was basically going to be an all or nothing thing. We couldn't get those two different things out in time for the release, which I think is kind of weird because the Hostess Club is just dialogue and just script. I don't know why that would be a big of a deal for them to do it, but apparently they didn't want to invest the money into getting it translated and coded over. So a lot of people are kind of off-put by that, and I'm actually one of them. I'm not very happy with them making cuts to Yakuza 3 when we kind of thought they weren't going to make it. I mean, the game's not going to be any less horrible. It's just going to be a little less authentic. So I'm not really happy to hear that because they're making cuts on it, and I don't think they need to be cuts. I mean, the point of Yakuza 3 is kind of for it to be a straight-up Japanese game with all the little nuances. Even if we don't get them all, it's nice to have the complete experience. So I'm not really happy to hear that. It shouldn't really detract from the game, but it's just something I'm not too happy to hear of. Moving on, Gamefly had their 2009 awards, basically, in which case Game of the Year they gave to Modern Warfare 2. And this was basically voted on the subscribers. I remember taking part in this. And Uncharted 2, Among Thieves is second place. And shockingly, Assassin's Creed 2 is in third place, which I think is extremely, extremely off base. And then, of course, you have it by platform, which kind of makes sense. And you see the second and third place for a lot of these. I don't even see Dragon Age mentioned, which is kind of surprising because Dragon Age was a really good game. I mean, compared to Assassin's Creed 2, which was kind of... I mean, there it is. Assassin's Creed 2 wasn't that great of a game, people. I don't know what it is. Compared to the other games out there, it just comes down to mainstream media and what... all the Halo and Madden people think is cool, and just like Fable 2, people just happen to grab onto it and think it's the best thing ever. In which case, people really start need to play more games if they think they're going to vote on stuff, but that's probably just me ranting. But yeah, I don't think Assassin's Creed 2 deserves anything, but that's just me. Gamefly here, let's see, I got Heavy Rain, basically I beat that, and I'm working on my write-up for it. I'll discuss in a couple seconds here. I am sending it back. I think I've kind of done everything I'm going to do with it, so I'm going to probably send that back tomorrow. In my queue right now, I have Deadly Premonition, which apparently isn't getting good reviews, but a lot of people are talking about it. So for some reason, I feel very inclined to want to give this game a try. And then, of course, I still have Darksiders up there, so hopefully I'll get to one of those two games soon. And then, of course, next week you have Final Fantasy 13 and Yakuza 3, which I'm basically both kind of hoping to get back to back. Other than that, let me just go ahead and do my little ranting on Heavy Rain real quick. I did really enjoy playing Heavy Rain. It's basically everything I thought it was going to be, but it's not really anything more, so, that's okay. What really kind of bothered me the most was the controls. I thought the controls were basically something you have to get used to, but it's more or less some of the controls just aren't that great. Them basically having the motion controls for the 6-axis thing was also just nerve-wracking, just because it's annoying, the motion controls, and sometimes they don't pick up, and sometimes you just have to repeat motions over and over again for it to get it right, and I really, really didn't like that part of it. And then, of course, the movement with the R2, which is kind of like the tank controls for moving your character around. they were okay. I thought I was going to get used to them, and I just didn't really get used to it. I mean, it wasn't really necessary. They could easily implement those controls of just a regular walking with the left stick and then using the right stick for your actions. They didn't have to use the R2 for crap. But I definitely enjoyed the presentation on it. I mean, this game is just, it looks awesome and it sounds great, but there are a couple hiccups here and there, and some things do look kind of off. But the overall presentation for this, with just the vibe, the cinematics, and the feel, was just freaking awesome. Also, the story, which of course I thought I had the idea of who the Origami Killer was within the first hour. You kind of get an idea for it because of basically your main character's blackouts and whatnot, so you kind of have an idea of who it could be. But then there's kind of a twist, and you find out it's somebody else, and you're like, oh, okay, it's a cool, interesting twist. But of course, that still kind of leaves a noticeable one or two, three, probably a couple of plot holes, which I've been checking online to see if other people agree with me that those plot holes don't make any sense, and they really don't. I mean, they kind of just, they never get answered, and that's what's nice about the internet. You can kind of quickly check what other people have done through different ways. I mean, the big thing about this game is the choices. I mean, if you think Mass Effect has a bunch of choices, this game is all about choices and how it leads to the next chapters. And basically, characters can die, and if your characters die in earlier chapters, they're not going to be there in the other later ones to interact with the other characters. And it's very cool how they did that. I played the game straight up and kind of got, I want to say, the good ending, or one of the better endings. Probably not the perfect ending, but basically all my main characters were more or less alive. And then I did save the kid, and basically I went back, and you can they do have chapter breaks where you can kind of go through and play them individually. So I actually went back to those to just see if I could get people to die and see how quickly they kind of change the story, because you can kind of go back to the chapters and save that progress and then go forward from that chapter to see how much difference it's going to be. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss how to get that to pull off right, but I definitely like that option to go back to the chapters and just start from there. But it was kind of almost hard to get people killed. I thought it would be easy to get people killed in gunfights and whatnot, but most of the time, whenever you kind of lose something in this game, they don't automatically die. They basically kind of just get beat up and kind of meander out of the situation, or just lose the situation, get beat up, and carry on. It's kind of almost difficult to get people to die, which I thought was kind of disappointing. What else was there? I wrote up a bunch of stuff on this game. I was taking many notes while writing this. One thing I noticed too is the one chick that's probably in a lot of the trailers. She basically is not really in a big part of the game there. Let me see if I can just skip around real quick to see if I can find her. Not him. He's the kind of the main character. Skipping. Jaden's a good character. I did like playing as him. This chick here, you'll see her. It's kind of dark here, but that chick that you see in a lot of the promos and stuff, she's not really in most of the game. She doesn't even come into a second chapter. I would say out of the whole game, that chick right there, she's only in probably like 10 or 15% of it. It almost felt like she was kind of shoehorned in the game, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, other than that, Jaden's parts with the whole ARI is freaking awesome, and I wish they had more of that. That could be almost a game in itself. And I really kind of like the Shelby character, the rough and gruff detective guy, and the Lauren character. And of course, like I said, characters do die and whatnot, so there's basically multiple playthroughs. But I really did enjoy the game. I was thinking I was going to go back and play through it more often than not, but I'm really not. I think I've kind of got my fill of it. I was planning on getting the DLC for it, the Taxidermist one, which was supposed to be available at launch, but apparently it's not going to be up till March. So I'm going to send the game back and probably get it, during the summer drought and try the DLC out. But definitely anybody that has a PS3, get the demo and then definitely play this game. It's definitely worth it. It's definitely fun, and I definitely enjoyed it. And but I don't know why I'm not going to go back and play through it again and again and again. But that's what the internet's for. I'm kind of just reading things here or there and kind of getting other people's vibes, and I'd rather do that than kind of play through it again. I hate to say that. But other than that, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.